Do note that if you're athletic, it doesn't help. I was really afraid my stitches are going to come apart. Thankfully, that thing really saved us in the end. Hey guys, I'm Kati, the vegan powerlifter, and today I'm going to tell you my birth story. This is not one of those positive birth story videos. I wish it was, but I'm going to tell you the pros and the cons and tell you that things don't always go exactly as you plan, no matter how prepared you are. So if you are planning on delivering vaginally, for example, like I was, but you might end up having an emergency C-section like I ended up having, don't quite click away off of this video if you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna give a C-section, so I'm just gonna go watch a bunch of natural or vaginal birth delivery videos. You might be up for a surprise. You never know. You need to be ready for everything. I hope things go as excellently as you're planning, but this is an unexpected process, a very complicated process. So yeah, let's get into it. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I know this is not like the primary content of this channel, but I have been releasing some pregnant training, and now I'm going to be releasing postpartum training videos, but I just focus on training women, training vegans, getting the girls stronger, and making sure the athletes that are currently in the gym include some more plant-based meals into their diet, and ideally go vegan. Hi dog. I am 3 months postpartum now. I think I have had enough time to decompress so I can actually start telling the story more like objectively. I did write a bunch of notes, but I cannot record this video earlier. In the first month, I had baby blues for sure, because every time I thought about my delivery experience, I was crying. I, of course, wanted to tell my girlfriends. Everybody was asking how things went. So if you are a friend of mine, it must be nice hearing me tell the story without tears. It's really not that bad. It's just an emotional process, and I think every woman has hormonal changes, and there usually will be something that does not go according to plan. Everything might be perfect, but I don't think I've heard a single birth story where everything was just the way they planned exactly. So let's start with like 38 weeks. 38 weeks, everything is normal. I'm still strength training. I am pretty much lifting normally. I could not bench for a little bit, I think in the beginning of my second trimester, because my baby was growing not quickly at first, and then it was growing super quickly, and my diaphragm couldn't handle like the extra stretch. So benching without the arch didn't feel good, so I removed it and then added it back at the beginning of the third trimester, and I was deadlifting and squatting relatively light at the end of the third trimester. 38 weeks, everything is normal. You know, we're tracking, we're doing all of the check-ins with the doctor, doing all of the labs. So 39 weeks rolls in. I go to see the doctor with whom I'm going to be giving birth. They measure that I'm already 1 centimeter dilated. At this point, the further vaginal checks might cause the start of the labor, and you don't want to do that because you don't know if the baby's ready. So at this point, we're like, all right, we might want to stop going to the gym, stop having intercourse, and basically stop the activities that might cause the baby to exit sooner than the baby wants. And I was like, all right, 39 weeks, that sounds fine. The majority of my powerlifting, bodybuilding, athletic girlfriends, CrossFit girlfriends that I've talked to who have given weight pretty much stopped training a couple of days before they delivered. So, you know, a week or 2 weeks, I don't think it would make a huge difference. So I was like, all right, we're not gonna go to the gym anymore. I have already been feeling some kind of like heaviness and slight like pulling in the bottom of my abdomen, underneath the belly where the uterus is. And I wasn't sure like what to do with that feeling because it would just come and go. It wasn't super strong. I was waiting for those famous contractions that everybody was telling me, and I told all my doctors that like, oh, I'm feeling this slight pulling. I don't know what it is. It's not like huge discomfort. I didn't have any discomfort during the pregnancy all along, except for some nausea in the first trimester, and then second trimester, a little bit of constipation, but the plant-based diet took care of that really quickly. Even though it was really weird to be constipated because I don't think I've ever been constipated as an adult. That was really weird. Like, I still ate my fiber, I still ate enough, you know, fruits and vegetables and protein, and it was insane. It was really weird. Not gonna get into the, you know, TMI bowel movement conversation, but I'm just saying, being pregnant, like, overall, good experience, but weird. And like at the end of the third trimester, it was not very convenient to cut toenails and tie shoelaces. Outside of that, I'll give pregnancy 6 out of 10. Not too bad. Would recommend if you have support. Anyways, back to the pulling feeling in my abdomen. I did not think that was contractions, because contractions were described to me as something that you cannot mistake with anything else. My husband and I took like a delivery course. It was like a 6-week course where they taught us what to do during pregnancy, during labor, after, everything. So that was awesome. And contractions, according to those folks and like all of my girlfriends, were supposed to feel like you just stop and you have involuntary, like something is moving from the top to the bottom of your stomach, or you just feel squeezing and you feel pain sometimes. Usually you feel pain. You need to stop and breathe through them for like a minute, and then you can carry along with whatever you're doing. But you have like fake contractions or Braxton Hicks contractions at first that are irregular, they come and go, they do not cause labor, and then you have contractions that get more frequent, and then you go into labor. Unfortunately, my body did not feel that. So that slight pulling in my stomach that was kind of getting more and more annoying, especially when we went on longer walks, or sometimes in the middle of the night, I would just wake up and feel the pulling and then be like, all right, I mean, going to the bathroom doesn't really help. I guess it's just gonna go away. Those are contractions. My OBGYN said that because my core is probably relatively strong, I might not feel contractions as strongly as other women. Well, turns out I pretty much did not feel contractions at all. And I'm giving you guys this as a warning. If you're doing powerlifting, strongman, I don't know, bodybuilding, CrossFit, but especially not aesthetics related sport, especially if you're doing a strength related sport, watch out. You might not feel contractions as strongly as people describe. So one night we went on like a super long walk the day before. I woke up at night at 1 a.m. Those things were getting annoying, like the pulling feeling in my uterus was getting annoying. And I was like, all right, let me time it, I guess. Maybe if it falls into the frequency of what people say contractions are, maybe let's just go to the hospital. It's been a week since I've been walking around with 1 centimeter dilation. We don't know what's happening. Maybe it's getting dilated. I don't know. The hospital bag was already ready. I timed the contractions. They were a couple of minutes apart, so there were 3 contractions at least within 10 minutes. And the app that I used to measure, I think it's called Huckleberry. Nice app, highly recommend. Has a free version. Was like, all right, time to go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital. I was still 1 centimeter dilated. It was 2 a.m. By the time we got there, or like 2:30. My husband was already kind of nervous, and we didn't get much sleep. We got only a couple hours of sleep. So I was not very happy that he was already like really antsy and the process has just started, because most births take from like 10 to, I don't know, 14, 16 hours. And I was like, well, damn, he needs to calm down, because I wasn't in like almost any pain. It has only started to get somewhat painful. And yeah, I could stop and breathe through the contractions, but they were relatively weak. It was more annoying than painful. So they were getting more frequent. My doctor got to the hospital. Well, my doctor was already in the hospital. The midwife got to the hospital. We had the contract with the doctor and the midwife. And they checked me into the room where I was going to give birth. Yay! They put the thing to measure baby's heart rate, essentially on my belly. Thankfully, that thing really saved us in the end. And the contractions were getting more and more, even though still not like super painful. We only got to 2 centimeters dilated by 5 a.m. And then the contractions started getting less frequent and the dilation didn't go further. A couple hours goes by, nothing changes. I was 40 weeks and 1 day. And I'm really glad we didn't decide to just pack up and go home or wait until the baby decides to give me more contractions and then, come out, quote unquote, naturally. I'm really glad that the doctor decided to poke the bubble with water and check on that. The waters were green and kind of brownish, so they looked swampy, and there was not a lot of water. That means the baby was kind of cramped, and the baby already peed or pooped or both, and potentially drank some of that. By the color of the water, it was clear that happened a while ago, so we needed to take the baby out. And it was not like, oh my gosh, emergency, let's rush to do the C-section. There was still some time for me to push and to, potentially wait for more contractions to come. But the frequency has been slowing down and they almost zeroed out within the next hour. So they decided to give me Pitocin because I was like, I want to give birth naturally. Let's avoid C-section by all costs. It's a huge, major procedure. So between choosing to do C-section right away and give me Pitocin to expedite the baby, I guess giving Pitocin was the decision made by, the doctor, my husband and I. That was the least worst decision. So I guess when things don't go according to plan exactly during labor, you just end up making the decision that's the least worst. It's like in politics. It's never the best decision. It's usually we're going to mitigate the risks and do our best. So according to the situations, they gave me Pitocin. I felt nothing for almost an hour. They were increasing the dose. And all of the sudden it kicked in and the contractions got really strong and really painful really quickly, to the point that I was bent over onto the side of the bed, couldn't talk, could barely breathe, was crying and drooling, and it was the worst pain that I've ever felt in my life. And I know Pitocin contractions are really strong, which is why I wanted to give birth naturally without any medications, but the baby couldn't stay inside without the waters, and with the green water, I'm glad we poked the water. It was just not an option to move on without any medical assistance. After I couldn't handle any more pain, we decided to do the epidural because they checked my dilation and it was still at 2 centimeters. They could feel the baby's head, but the baby was trying to get a huge head into 2 centimeters. It needs to be 10. Wasn't working. They gave me the epidural. Slowly, the pain went away. I did not feel any pain during the insertion of any needles in the epidural, like people warn you. So thankfully, that was fine. Laid down, they increased the dose of the Pitocin to hopefully get the baby out and get me more dilated. Did not work. My uterus was just so stubborn. My uterus was incredibly stubborn and not stretchy. One friend of mine, she did not want to do a C-section so badly that her midwife was stretching her uterus by hand. I've also heard stories about torn uteruses. And the doctor was like, there's no more reason to wait for anything. Your uterus is just way too tight. There's nothing we can do about it. I recommend a C-section. And I was so tired by then. It was around noon. So I've been at it from 2 a.m. to noon, about 10 hours, that there was no point. So I already had my epidural in, and they just brought me into the surgery room to take the baby out. The fun thing that I did not know about the C-section is that nothing is cut. I thought oh my gosh, they're going to cut my abdominals and how do they heal? Oh no. Well, you can Google it. There's a lot of non-graphic diagrams of how C-section works. They actually cut along the fascia and then they pull your ab muscles apart. So they pull muscles apart, as she said, with dull objects. So they don't cut everything, they kind of try to work around that and then take the baby out. So around 1:30, Victor was born. They brought me into the ICU, gave me, I think, 2 more epidurals because the pain was just so severe. And yeah, that was it. I think it was minimally invasive for what I imagined a C-section would be versus what it actually was. There's an epidural, there's some anti-pain, anti-inflammation that they give you, and that's it. And then I was in the ICU until the evening, and then they brought me into my room. They actually helped me up, and I walked to the bidet to wash up after they removed the catheter and brought me into my room. So it took me a couple hours, well, from like 2 to 8 p.m. to start feeling my legs so I could walk, and walked to my room. So the not so nice parts were that it was incredibly painful to get up. I was really afraid that all of the stitching was going to come apart if I twist, if I move my legs, but everybody says you prevent blood clots by getting up and walking right after the invasive surgery like this. When my dad got back surgeries, they got him up the same night. He got me up after the C-section, and I hear stories of people getting surgeries and then they had to be up the same night. I do not understand exactly what the benefits are if my blood work is fine and I'm at a low risk for blood clots, but go figure. So yeah, moving around was incredibly painful. All of the sneezing and coughing was incredibly painful for the next 3 days. I was walking hunched over in the back for the next week, but at 2.5 weeks, I already went to the gym. So everybody was like, you're gonna be fine. It's okay. It's only the first week or so that is really hard. So I don't know what I would have done without my husband, because how would I get up? How would I use the bathroom? How would I feed the baby? You know what I mean? I couldn't hold the baby. I couldn't get up quickly and hold the baby and change the diaper and take the baby to the sink to wash up. So that was really tough, and I have no idea how women do this by themselves. Really, no clue. I've heard stories of my girlfriends who delivered vaginally that like, yeah, it hurts down there, but you get up no problem, like you run around. I did not hear details about the scar healing and what women felt who got C-sections, because honestly, I wasn't ready for one. I wasn't preparing for one. They had tied my belly up with a cloth, and because I didn't have a corset, they were just wrapping cloths for babies that I tied my stomach up with before walking to have at least some support and less pain. And I was using compression socks for walking, and at night I took all that off so that everything would breathe. So yeah, you still get a lot of vaginal discharge, a lot of blood discharge, the rest of the placenta attachments and all of the stuff that was in your uterus is going to be coming out for the next 2 months probably. For me, it was like about 1.5 months. And that's regardless, C-section or vaginal delivery. But yeah, walking sucked, getting up sucked. Like you can't do crunches, right? Because things at the bottom of your stomach have been cut and they're healing. But to get up, there is at least a little bit of the crunching movement that you need to do, and that hurt like hell. But the third day, when I could like turn to my side more freely and use my hands to prop myself up and then drop the legs at the same time as getting the upper body upright, when I could do that relatively efficiently, getting up wasn't that big of a deal. But the first 3 days were hell until then, honestly. My husband took care of the baby when the baby cried, and they did offer us extra food in case I didn't have enough milk. Turned out I didn't have enough milk like 2.5 weeks later, but I had enough colostrum, I had enough milk the first 2.5 weeks, so we didn't need that at the hospital. We just turned down the extra formula that they offered. But it's nice that that's being offered in the hospitals for moms who don't have enough colostrum, even though the baby's stomach is the size of a cherry. So frequent feedings are tough when you're healing from a huge invasive surgery. They do get easier when nothing hurts, and then the baby doesn't wake up every 2 hours. So Victor's 3 months now, and he can sleep for like 4 to 6 hours sometimes at night, which is awesome. It doesn't feel as tough waking up once or twice a night versus 5 times a night. It also doesn't help that in the hospital you don't have a lock on your room, an internal lock on your room, I guess for safety reasons. And doctors can come into your room at any time, day or night, to check on you, to take, blood pressure, or to give you anything, to give the baby anything. So we were first kind of like in shock after the surgery and very tired. And then in shock every time somebody just rushed through the door to help us out with something that we didn't know. So it was nice. And the majority of the folks in the hospital were nice, but there's always the people who are like, oh, you're holding the baby wrong. Oh, you're doing this wrong. Do this instead. And they deliver this information with such vigor and such passion that we're like, nice. Thank you for your feedback, lady. The most useful thing that I've brought was glycerin rectal, I don't know what you call them. We call them candles here. Well, I guess the things that you insert into your anus, they're like about a pinky big. Can you write in the comments what are they called? They melt and you can poop without any pain, because you cannot contract your sphincter and your abs as well, no matter what kind of birth you've given. Vaginal birth or C-section. Those things are a must in every woman's bag who's going to give birth. And I do not understand how some girls show up to the hospital without those, because I was using them for the first whole week, because contracting abs and contracting everything in the uterus and around it was just not an option. It wasn't that it was painful, sometimes it just felt like it was impossible. And you still need to poop. So those things are the number one thing that I would just carry in your purse if you're close to delivery date. If your husband forgets anything, you must not forget that. I used electrolytes during labor, but I didn't have the pushing stage, so I guess I would be more exhausted if I did, and I would need that more. Food-wise, regular food, you just eat regular food, so whoever tells you can't eat blah, no, you can't eat everything. Let's see, clearly you bring diapers. I would probably bring a corset for the first 3 to 5 days after the surgery. You can tie yourself with a cloth or with 2 cloths to support your lower abdomen. And that's not for any aesthetical reasons or for any healing reasons. That is just for your comfort, because when you get up, you're going to have such pain around the scar, like it's burning and it feels heavy. And I was really afraid my stitches are going to come apart if I just walk across the room to the bathroom. Of course, that wasn't going to happen. Otherwise, doctors would have said something immediately, right? But for your comfort, compression socks and a corset that you can wear when you're walking, if you have to walk across the hospital for an ultrasound or something else, it's very nice to have. I wish I had that. I didn't have a corset. Compression socks level 1 are enough. You don't need level 2. Make sure you try them on, make sure they fit, make sure they're comfortable. And you don't need to wear them when you're down. You need to wear them when you're upright, when you're walking. I brought a book. I downloaded some episodes of Attack on Titan. So my first couple weeks after delivery, my husband and I were finishing Attack on Titan. And it was nice to have a distraction, I would say. And actually I was working a lot. I could work from my phone and make sure I made sure that my clients have programs for weeks after my delivery, but I actually could work just fine, checking their videos, giving them program updates, and encouragement, and most people did not know that I had birth until I checked out of the hospital. That is all I wanted to say. I did not care getting into the nitty-gritty of like the super bad things, but if you are curious, I did post about that on my Instagram. So you can go to Gorbachev E and read all of the details about giving birth in a Russian hospital. Compare that with your birth in whatever the country that you live in, and write your birth story in the comments. I would be very curious to read. I read a lot of birth stories, some positive, most not positive, not because I don't want to send a positive energy to the universe, but just because I wanted to be prepared for everything. And I hope you are prepared for everything if you are currently expecting. Do note that if you're athletic, it doesn't help. It doesn't harm or doesn't help the delivery process. It is a completely separate thing, your athleticism and how your birth goes. And I wish it was relevant. I wish, because I'm so strong and so cool and so powerful, you know, I could just pop that baby out in an hour and heal immediately, but that's not the case. So if all of your friends tell you like, oh, you're gonna do so great, you're so strong, like your course, you're just gonna push so quickly, and oh, I wish all of my friends were right. Unfortunately, that's not how it goes. So don't listen to those people who are like, you're X, so it's going to be Y. That is not relevant during birth. Listen to your OBGYN, listen to some good doctors, read some birth stories. So if you are a mama, please write your birth story in the comments. I really want to read that. And if you're expecting, also feel free to write any questions. I'm happy to answer everything I can, but I am not your doctor. I'm not your coach. I am a coach, and I have wanted to coach women during pregnancy. Now I feel like I actually have enough experience and enough information, and I've done enough research to do so. So if you're currently pregnant and you're looking for a strength coach, I'm happy to help you out with a program that does not replace any medical advice that your doctor has given you. That is to hopefully supplement a healthy pregnancy and decrease gestational diabetes and decrease the amount of extra fat that you potentially could accumulate during pregnancy. Some women gain a lot of weight, that is fat. Some women gain a lot of water weight that surrounds the baby. We don't know what kind of weight you're gonna gain, but regardless, strength training regimen and cardio regimen has been recommended to be relatively the same by the majority of the health professionals in developed countries. So you need to do something if you want some advice from a woman who is a coach and has experienced birth and trained through her pregnancy. I am happy to help. The link to schedule a consultation is in the description, and the coaching application is also on veganpowerlifter.com. So make sure to go there and check out the free resources and apply for coaching if you need one. All right, that is going to be all for my birth story video. Thank you for watching. I hope you hit a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.